So that is the databases and tables. We're going to start getting into how to handle more data going in and out of your Postgres database. So we're going to go down here to the next lesson, and we're going to do inserts first. So now we have 3 different columns that we have to insert into. Well, 2 of them we have to, 1 of them we could leave blank. So let's go ahead and do that right now. We're going to say insert into ingredients. Okay. And we're going to insert them in the order of title, image, type. We don't have to do it in that order, but this is the order that we're going to do it. Okay, and then we're going to say values. Single quotes, again, I'm going to re-emphasize that. Single quotes, not double quotes. Red pepper, red_pepper.jpg. And we're going to make it a vegetable. Okay. Close the parentheses, semicolon, and there we go. We inserted 1 item into our database. The 0 means we didn't update anything. All we did was insert. So this is kind of a weird syntax. Why is it done this way? Well, we can actually comma separate these values, and we can insert multiple values at a time. So we can insert like 10 rows at a time, and we'll do that here in just a second. And then here, we're just telling it the order that we're going to put these things in. Notice that title was the first one, image was the second one, type was the third one, right? We can reorganize that. There's no sacred order here. So I could have image first, as long as I put redpepper.jpg first, right? And that is 99% of what inserting is into. You just do insert into, you tell it the table, you tell it the order that you're going to give it things, and then you give it the values. The end. So let's talk just a moment about single quotes, double quotes. This was confusing for me as a JavaScript developer where it makes literally no difference, right? It does make a difference when it comes to SQL. So let's do this again. We're going to say insert into ingredients. Here, we can use double quotes. So I can say title in double quotes, I can say image in double quotes, and I can leave it off for type if I feel like it, right? This is letting it know it's the actual name of the column, right? So we're actually, I could even put ingredients in quotes. Let's do that. Anyway, you can put ingredients in quotes as well because it's the name of the table, right? So it's the identifiers that you can put into the double quotes. But notice here I'm doing it, here I'm not. It's optional, and frequently I don't. Almost never do I. And then here, again, because it's the literal value that I'm putting in here, I have to use single quotes. Broccoli, broccoli.jpg, and it is, I'm pretty sure it's a vegetable. Okay. So another thing to note here is that white space is not significant. Notice I'm just putting things on new lines, and I'm putting, if you read my notes, there's tabs everywhere. White space is not significant in SQL. You can put infinite space in there and it doesn't care.
Since type is a keyword, is there an issue having that as a column name?
It's a good question. Since type is a keyword, like you'll notice in my some of my highlighting, it'll show up as highlighted. It's not, right? When you can see here in this particular case, there are things that I think that are off limits for column names, but I think most of it is pretty fair game because it's usually unambiguous in the grammar of SQL. But yeah, people, I'm sure someone might take exception that I called it type, but I've called lots of stuff type in my career, so here we are.
So do you put single quotes no matter the value type, even if it's like a number?
So that's a good question. No, it's just for the string types, yeah. So if I wanted to put like 5 there, I would just put the actual number 5, because if you put the quotes around it, it becomes a string, right? That's a good thing to point out. Good question. To do comments in SQL, so this will actually fail because we have a unique constraint. But notice here, I have the dash dash here. This is how you do comments in SQL, is the dash dash. Anything that comes after the dash dash is commented. And again here, right? This should fail, right? Because it's going to say this title key here, broccoli, we put a unique constraint on that so that the title is unique for that particular table. So it failed to insert that because I tried to insert it again because it's already in there, right? One of the things I like about Postgres is I think it has, for the most part, pretty useful errors, right? Key title equals broccoli already exists. That lets me know right away you violated the constraint around having unique titles. You can name these ingredients title keys, right? If I say it's -d, you can see, or maybe here if I do ingredients, you can see that this has an index on the title key. We'll talk about indexes in a bit, but you can actually name these whatever you want. But if you don't name them, it has really useful sane default names for them. So I generally don't name them because I like the names that I would be typing out those names anyway, so I just let them name it for me. But if you see P key, that's another common one that you'll see here, stands for primary key.
Are tables stored like B trees?
Our tables are not stored as B trees. Indexes are stored as B trees sometimes. We will talk about that when we get to indexes. The actual physical manifestation of how Postgres stores them, I actually don't know, but it would not be a B tree. So I want to put a bunch of stuff in our table, and I don't want to type it all out. So you and I are going to copy this query right here. Yeah, right there. Feel free to copy and paste, too much typing. Okay, now if I paste this in here, it might get a little mangled because it might be too long for you can see that right here, it's kind of mangled there. It's fine, it's just my terminal is not emulating it correctly. If I hit enter, you can see that I had 29, that inserted correctly. The only interesting thing here is one, you can see here we're just comma separating all these values out, right? But the interesting thing here is on conflict do nothing. Or let's go look over here because it's probably easier to see. I had, for example, broccoli was in there already, and red pepper was in there already, right? That would have been a conflict because it's like, hey, you're trying to insert the title key again here. So basically on conflict do nothing is saying, if you hit any of these rows that you won't let me insert, just drop it. I don't care, just keep going, right? So I could actually potentially just run this again, and it's going to insert 0, but it's not going to crash, right? Whereas if I did it again, and I delete the on conflict part, and I just, is that correct? No, it's not. So we're just going to copy and paste to here. You can always hit Control-C, and that'll escape whatever query you're in the middle of. Now I do that again. So because I didn't put the on conflict do nothing here, it's going to immediately fail, and then nothing gets inserted, right? So you have to tell it what to do on conflicts. It's good if you're doing like massive inserts or like you're seeding a database with a bunch of information to give it those kind of on conflict things. Otherwise, if you have one error, everything crashes. So I just wanted to show you a different way of, or something else you can do with that on conflict. If I say insert into ingredients, and I say title, image, value, values, I say watermelon, you can see there that watermelon definitely already exists. And I want to give it the image of banana because I don't live by the rules. And then I can say something of the type here, but I can just say this won't be updated. So you might wonder, why am I putting 2 quotes there? This is how you escape single quotes inside of the values, right? Because we can only use single quotes, we need some way of saying, like, what happens if I actually want a single quote inside of my query. The way you do that, it's not with backslash, which is what I was used to with literally everything else. In SQL, you put 2 single quotes next to each other. Okay, this won't work, right? I can actually just run it as is, and it's going to say, oh, it's not value, it's type. Okay, you can't put watermelon in here. I already have a watermelon, heck off. I'm not going to allow you to do this. What if I want to say, if this doesn't exist, insert it. If it does exist, update it, right? So watermelon exists. What if I just want to update it? This is where onConflict comes in is helpful again. OnConflict, you have to tell it on what sort of conflict, in this case title. Then you're going to say do update set image equals excluded dot image. So imagine if I have 50 of these, right? And I wanted to just update it if it has some sort of conflict there. That's what the excluded dot image is. The excluded means the row that got excluded, and then I want you to pull the image off, and I want you to set the image on whatever one that conflicted on title. So just to prove my point from you, again, we'll talk about selects here in just a second. Select star from ingredients, where title equals watermelon. You can see there it did update it. I don't have 2 rows in here. I have just 1, and the one got updated. You will typically hear this referred to as an upsert, right? It's an update and an insert in one step. If you're doing something like MongoDB, they actually literally call it upsert, right? That's the name of the method that you use. In SQL, you're going to do this onConflict business. So if I come back and do this again, what happens? You can also just say that this would just get set to some string as well, right? And now if I do this, let's say I had 500 conflicts, right? All of them would get set to default.jpg instead of actually going and updating it.